Diocletian's palace, built around 300 CE, forms the city's historic core, covering 38,000 square meters. The Roman emperor retired here, and the palace later became a fortified town housing thousands. The cathedral occupies Diocletian's mausoleum, making it one of the world's oldest Catholic cathedrals. This ancient citadel sits atop a limestone hill 156 meters high, with a flat summit measuring 170 by 350 meters. The Parthenon and other temples date to the 5th century BCE, representing the pinnacle of classical Greek architecture. The site has been continuously significant for over 2,500 years. This hidden canyon near Skopje features waterfalls and pools accessible through narrow passages. The main waterfall drops 8 meters into an emerald pool surrounded by moss-covered rocks. The canyon remained relatively unknown until recent years, when social media revealed its beauty. Macedonia's largest national park covers 731 square kilometers of mountainous terrain. Mount Korab, at 2,764 meters, is Macedonia's highest peak. The submerged Church of St. Nicholas emerges from Mavrovo Lake during droughts, creating an eerie sight. Slovenia's oldest town dates back to Roman times, when it was called Poetovio. The hilltop castle overlooks medieval streets and the oldest wine cellar in Slovenia. The town hosts Kurentovanje, one of Europe's most authentic carnival celebrations. This Istrian coastal town features colourful houses climbing a peninsula crowned by the 18th century St. Euphemia Church. The old town preserves Venetian architecture from centuries of Italian rule ending in 1947. 13 islands offshore form an archipelago popular with boaters. Known as the City of 1,000 Windows, this UNESCO site preserves 2,400 years of continuous habitation. The hilltop castle still houses families within its 13th century walls, creating a living museum. White Ottoman houses cascade down the hillside in distinctive architectural tiers. Bosnia's oldest national park covers 175 square kilometers, including Perusica primeval forest, with trees over 400 years old. Mount Maglic at 2,386 meters is Bosnia's highest peak. The park witnessed the Battle of Sujecka in 1943. This Sufi monastery, built around 1520, sites at the source of the Buna River beneath a 200-meter cliff. The spring produces 43 cubic meters of water per second from underground caves. An 1851 restoration added Turkish Baroque features to the original Ottoman architecture. Perched on towering rock pillars, the monasteries of Meteora seem to float in the sky. Built by monks seeking spiritual isolation, they offer stunning views and a sense of peace. The blend of geology and faith is truly unique, a sacred symphony of stone and silence. This UNESCO Biosphere Reserve is Europe's best preserved river delta, covering 5,800 square kilometers. Over 300 bird species and 45 freshwater fish species inhabit the vast network of waterways and marshes. Traditional fishing villages and unique ecosystems have existed here for thousands of years. Seven travertine waterfalls cascade along the Krka River, with Skredinsky Buk being the longest at 800 meters. The park contains a Franciscan monastery on Visovac Island, housing rare manuscripts. Ancient Roman military camps and medieval fortresses dot the landscape. The Balkans' largest lake varies from 370 to 530 square kilometers seasonally between Montenegro and Albania. Over 270 bird species use the lake, including Europe's largest pelican colony. Medieval monasteries on islands served as spiritual centers for centuries. These naturally formed rock pillars rise up to 200 meters high across 7 kilometers of terrain near the Serbian border. The formations developed over 230 million years from sedimentary layers sculpted by erosion. A medieval fortress built among the rocks adds 14 centuries of human history to the geological wonder. This fortified medieval town dates back 2,500 years, making it one of the Adriatic's oldest settlements. Venetian walls from the 15th century enclose narrow stone streets and Byzantine churches. The 1979 earthquake destroyed much of the old town, which was meticulously reconstructed. This 10th century monastery sits on Lake Ohrid's southern shore near the Albanian border. Springs beneath the monastery produce crystal clear water, creating a unique ecosystem. Peacocks roam the grounds, and traditional boats offer rides through the spring-fed channels. This medieval town features Ottoman architecture along the Bistrica River beneath a hilltop fortress. The Sinan Pasha Mosque from 1615 and the Church of Our Lady of Ljevis from 14th century represent the city's diverse heritage. The old town preserves traditional crafts, including silver filigree work. Founded in the 10th century by Hermit St. John of Rila, this UNESCO monastery is Bulgaria's largest with 300 rooms. The current structure dates from the 19th century after fire destroyed earlier buildings. Vibrant frescoes cover 1,200 square meters, depicting biblical scenes and Bulgarian history. Sixteen turquoise lakes cascade into each other, linked by a series of lush waterfalls. Wooden paths wind through this fairy tale setting, surrounded by forest and mist. Every turn reveals another emerald pool or sparkling stream. Nature's water garden at its most magical. This mountain reaches 1,749 meters and holds the mausoleum of Petar II, Petrovich Njegos, Montenegro's beloved poet-prince. The mausoleum sits atop Jezerski Vrch Peak, accessed by 461 steps. On clear days, views extend across 1/3 of Montenegro's territory. This limestone canyon stretches 5 kilometers along the Treska River, just 15 kilometers from Skopje. The canyon contains over 10 caves, including Vrelo Cave, with an underwater depth exceeding 200 meters. Medieval monasteries cling to canyon walls dating from the 14th century. This Roman amphitheatre, built in the 1st century CE, is among the 6 largest surviving Roman arenas worldwide. The structure measures 132 by 105 meters and once held 23,000 spectators. 4 towers and complete outer walls remain intact, making it one of the best preserved Roman monuments. This UNESCO park covers 403 square kilometers of marble and granite peaks. Mount Viren at 2,914 meters is Bulgaria's 2nd highest peak. Over 170 glacial lakes dot the alpine landscape alongside ancient Macedonian pine forests. This park protects the Una River with its distinctive cascades, including the Martinbrod Waterfall Complex. The river features travertine barriers creating natural pools and waterfalls along 78 kilometers. Medieval fortresses and traditional watermills dot the landscape along the Croatian border. This glacial alpine valley stretches 7 kilometers, surrounded by peaks exceeding 2,000 meters. The Rinka waterfall drops 90 meters from a hanging valley. Traditional mountain farms practice sustainable agriculture in this protected landscape park. Croatia's largest island covers 405 square kilometers, connected to the mainland by a 1,430-meter bridge. The town of Kruk dates to Roman times, with a cathedral incorporating 5th century Christian basilica remains. The island produces distinctive white wine from Žlahtina grapes. This ancient Greek settlement along the Albanian Riviera preserves traditional stone architecture in its old quarter. The castle ruins date to the 6th century, with additions from Byzantine and Ottoman periods. Beaches stretch for 13 kilometers along the Ionian coastline. This UNESCO Biosphere Reserve is Europe's best preserved river delta, covering 5,800 square kilometers. Over 300 bird species and 45 freshwater fish species inhabit the vast network of waterways and marshes. Traditional fishing villages and unique ecosystems have existed here for thousands of years. This park contains 18 glacial lakes and peaks exceeding 2,000 meters elevation, including Bobatov Kuk at 2,523 meters. The Tara River Canyon at 1,300 meters deep is Europe's deepest gorge. Ice caves maintain sub-zero temperatures year-round despite summer heat. This park protects the Una River with its distinctive cascades, including the Martinbrod Waterfall Complex. The river features travertine barriers creating natural pools and waterfalls along 78 kilometers. Medieval fortresses and traditional watermills dot the landscape along the Croatian border. This pristine alpine valley in the accursed mountains remained virtually inaccessible until recent decades. The Valbona Theth hiking trail crosses an 1,800-meter pass between isolated valleys. Old-growth beech forests provide habitat for bears, wolves, and lynx in one of Europe's last wilderness areas. This collapsed karst valley features two natural bridges spanning the Rak River Gorge. The Great Natural Bridge rises 42 meters high and stretches 37 meters across. The valley contains caves, sinkholes, and unique karst formations within a protected landscape park. These glacial lakes sit between 2,100 and 2,500 meters elevation in the Rila Mountains. The lakes bear names like the tear, the eye, and the kidney, based on their shapes. A cable car provides access, reducing the hike to 90 minutes from the mountain hut. This fjord-like bay penetrates 28 kilometers inland, surrounded by limestone cliffs reaching 1,750 meters high. The medieval town of Kotor features walls climbing the mountainside with 1,350 steps. The bay's unique geography creates a dramatic microclimate. This medieval Bosnian capital served as the seat of Ottoman governors from 1580 to 1850. The colourful old town features two fortresses and multiple mosques from the Ottoman period. Nobel Prize-winning author Ivo Andrić was born here in 1892. This medieval Bulgarian capital sits dramatically on hills above the Yantra River's horseshoe bend. Tsarevets fortress served as the royal palace from 1185 to 1393 during the Second Bulgarian Empire. The city was Bulgaria's political and cultural center before Ottoman conquest, with over 30,000 residents at its peak. This emerald river flows 138 kilometers from the Julian Alps to the Adriatic. The water's distinctive color results from limestone particles suspended in glacial melt. The valley witnessed fierce World War I battles along the Isonzo front from 1915 to 17. This ancient Greek colony, called Apollonia, dates back to the 7th century BCE. Traditional wooden houses from the 19th century Bulgarian revival period fill the Old Town Peninsula. The town hosts Bulgaria's major arts festival each September, attracting international performers. This mountain road, built between 1970 and 74, climbs to 2,042 meters through the Fagaras Mountains. The 90-kilometer route features 5 tunnels, numerous viaducts, and 180 hairpin turns. Nicolae Ceausescu ordered its construction as a military route. This island claims to be Marco Polo's birthplace in 1254, though Venice disputes this. The medieval old town features a unique herringbone street pattern designed for wind protection. Dense pine forests earned it the name Black Corfu in ancient Greek times. This iconic bridge in Mostar was built in 1566 by Ottoman architect Mimar Hayruddin. The single stone arch spans 28 meters across the Neretva River. Destroyed in 1993 during the Bosnian War, it was reconstructed and reopened in 2004. This Baroque town features 16 churches and 17 palaces, despite having only 300 residents. 2 islands offshore include Our Lady of the Rocks, an artificial island created over centuries by sinking ships loaded with rocks. The town prospered as a maritime power from the 15th to 18th centuries. Founded in 1382, this coastal town features architecture from Bosnian, Ottoman, Venetian, Spanish, and Austro-Hungarian periods. The old town climbs steep hills with 1,000 steps connecting various levels. The Kanli Kula fortress offers panoramic views across Kotor Bay. Serbia's largest national park, spans 636 square kilometers along 100 kilometers of the Danube River. The Iron Gates Gorge reaches depths of 82 to 90 meters, with the river widening to 2 kilometers in places. The park contains Lepenski Vir archaeological site dating back over 10,000 years. This mountain plateau sits at 1,000 meters elevation, featuring rolling meadows and pine forests across nearly 500 square kilometers. Traditional wooden villages preserve Serbian mountain architecture and cultural heritage. The Shargan 8 narrow-gauge railway, built in 1925, climbs through 22 tunnels and 10 bridges, creating a figure-8 pattern. This UNESCO city features medieval walls spanning 1,940 meters encircling the old town. The limestone streets and Baroque buildings date from the 13th to 17th centuries, when Dubrovnik was a powerful maritime republic. The 1991-92 siege caused significant damage, later meticulously restored. This Renaissance castle, built into a 123-meter cliff face, dates to the 13th century. The structure connects to a cave system extending 14 kilometers underground. Knight Erazem Luega famously withstood a siege here in the 15th century, using secret passages. Greece's highest mountain reaches 2,918 meters at Mytica's peak. Ancient Greeks believed 12 Olympian gods resided at the summit. The mountain contains over 1,700 plant species, with several endemic to this location alone. This karst spring produces crystal clear blue water from depths exceeding 50 meters, though the true bottom remains unexplored. The water maintains a constant 10 degrees Celsius year-round, while pumping out 6 cubic meters per second. Its vivid blue color results from light refraction in the deep underwater cave system. This medieval Bosnian capital features a 20-meter waterfall in the town center, where the Pliva River meets the Vrbas. The town's fortress witnessed the last Bosnian king's coronation in 1461. Tito announced the formation of Socialist Yugoslavia here in 1943. This Belgrade fortress sits at the confluence of the Sava and Danube rivers on a strategic ridge. The site has been fortified for over 2,000 years, with current structures dating from the 15th to 18th centuries. The complex covers 31 hectares with museums, monuments, and parkland. Construction began in 1446 under John Hunyadi, creating one of Europe's largest castles. The Gothic Renaissance structure features massive towers, a drawbridge, and dungeons associated with Vlad the Impaler legends. Over 50 rooms showcase medieval architecture spanning 4 centuries of additions. This town features a 6-arched Ottoman bridge from 1782 spanning the Neretva River. During Yugoslav times, a massive underground bunker complex was built here as Tito's nuclear shelter. The surrounding mountains offer rafting and hiking opportunities. Bosnia's highest inhabited village sits at 1,472 meters elevation in the Bjelaznica Mountains. Stone houses with distinctive wooden roofs preserve medieval Bosnian architecture. The village remains snowbound and inaccessible by vehicle for 6 months annually. This mountain range features the Rugova Canyon stretching 25 kilometers, with walls rising up to 1,000 meters. The Via Ferrata Ari climbing route offers protected mountain access. Traditional stone towers and alpine villages preserve centuries-old mountain culture. Slovenia's largest permanent lake covers 318 hectares within Triglav National Park. The glacial lake reaches 45 meters deep and is fed by the Savita waterfall. Traditional alpine architecture surrounds the lake, which remains less developed than nearby Bled. Greece's second largest city features Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman monuments spanning 2,300 years. The White Tower from the 15th century is the city's symbol. The Rotunda from the 4th century CE is one of the oldest Christian churches still standing. Europe's oldest continuously inhabited city dates back over 8,000 years. The Roman amphitheatre from the 2nd century CE seats 7,000 spectators and still hosts performances. The Old Town features Bulgarian revival architecture from the 18th and 19th centuries. This coastal city sits across from Corfu with ferry connections to Greece. Ancient Butrint ruins 5 kilometers south date back to the 7th century BCE. The city remained isolated under communism until 1991 and has since developed into a major tourist destination. This 15th century fortified island village, connected to the mainland by a narrow causeway, became a luxury resort in 1960. Originally home to 12 families, it now contains 85 rooms and suites. The island stretches 170 meters long and 12,600 square meters total. Bulgaria's maritime capital features Roman baths from the 2nd century CE covering 7,000 square meters, making them the 4th largest Roman baths in Europe. The Archaeological Museum houses the world's oldest processed gold dating to 4,600 BCE from the Varna necropolis. The Sea Garden stretches along 8 kilometers of Black Sea coastline. This neo-Renaissance castle, built between 1873 and 1914, contains 160 rooms showcasing European artistic styles. King Carol I's summer residence features the first European castle with central heating and electricity. The interior displays over 4,000 weapons and armor pieces. This remote mountain valley in the Albanian Alps remained accessible only by foot until 2000. Traditional stone tower houses called kula served as refuges during blood feuds. The lock-in tower preserves this unique defensive architecture from the Kanun legal code era. This Neo-Byzantine cathedral in Sofia spans 72 meters long and 55 meters wide, with a gilded dome reaching 50 meters high, built between 1882 and 1912. It honors Russian soldiers who died liberating Bulgaria from Ottoman rule in the 1877-78 war. The interior accommodates up to 10,000 worshippers across 3,170 square meters. This unique V-shaped pebble beach extends 500 meters into the Adriatic and constantly changes shape with wind and currents. The beach is a windsurfing hotspot due to reliable maestral winds. Brack's distinctive white limestone was used in Diocletian's palace and the White House in Washington. This island's western third forms a national park, featuring 2 saltwater lakes connected to the sea. A 12th century Benedictine monastery sits on an island within the larger lake. Dense Mediterranean forests cover over 70% of the island, supporting diverse wildlife. This stone city features distinctive tower houses with stone roofs built during Ottoman rule from the 15th to 19th centuries. The hilltop castle dates to the 12th century and later served as a prison under communist dictator Enver Hoxha. Writer Ismail Kadare's birthplace here inspired his novels about Albanian history. Slovenia's only national park covers 840 square kilometers of Julian Alps terrain. Mount Triglav, at 2,864 meters, is Slovenia's highest peak and national symbol appearing on the country's flag. The park contains over 7,000 animal species and 1,600 plant species, including endemic alpine flowers. Three-pronged peninsula covers 2,918 square kilometers with 550 kilometers of coastline. Mount Athos on the easternmost peninsula reaches 2,033 meters and houses 20 autonomous monasteries. The region supports over 110,000 residents and extensive protected natural areas. This Ionian island connects to the mainland by a 50-meter floating bridge and causeway. Porto Katsiki Beach features dramatic white cliffs dropping to turquoise waters. The island's west coast offers some of Greece's best windsurfing conditions. The capital blends Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, and Yugoslav architecture across 5 centuries of diverse rule. Bascasia Old Bazaar dates from the 15th century with over 1,000 shops. The Latin Bridge witnessed Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination in 1914 triggering World War I. This medieval fortress guards the entrance to the Iron Gates Gorge, where the Danube narrows dramatically. Built in the 14th century, it changed hands between Serbian, Hungarian, and Ottoman forces over 20 times. 9 towers connected by thick walls create an imposing silhouette against the river. This park protects ancient Molucca pine forests with trees exceeding 500 years old. The twin glacial lakes, called Pellister Eyes, sit at 2,100 meters elevation. Mount Pellister reaches 2,601 meters, offering views across 3 countries. These sandstone formations reach 100 meters high, resembling Egyptian pyramids near Bulgaria's smallest town. The natural pyramids formed through erosion over millions of years, creating mushroom-shaped pillars. The area produces distinctive wine stored in underground cellars carved into the formations. This 25-meter-high tufa cascade spans 120 meters wide on the Trebizhat River. The amphitheater-shaped falls create natural swimming pools popular in summer months. Travertine barriers formed by calcium carbonate deposits continue building the waterfall structure. Greece's largest Ionian island covers 781 square kilometers with dramatic limestone cliffs and underground lakes. Mount Ainos reaches 1,628 meters, and hosts unique fir forests. The island was devastated by a 1953 earthquake but rebuilt, preserving traditional architecture. This coastal village features 4 small islands just offshore, accessible by swimming during calm weather. The beaches showcase white sand and turquoise waters rivaling Greek islands. The area remained closed to foreigners until 1991 under communist isolation. This Venetian Gothic town juts into the Adriatic on a narrow peninsula. Tartini Square honours violinist Giuseppe Tartini, born here in 1692. Medieval walls and narrow streets preserve 7 centuries of Venetian architectural influence. This tiny wooden cabin sits on a rock in the middle of the Drina River, rebuilt 7 times since 1968 after flood destruction. The house became an internet sensation and symbol of Serbian resilience. It serves no practical purpose beyond being a photogenic curiosity, attracting thousands of visitors. This canyon reaches depths of 900 meters, making it one of the world's deepest relative to its width. The Guinness Book of Records listed it as the deepest canyon proportionally in 1990. The Voidomatis River flowing through maintains exceptional water clarity, supporting rare fish species. One of Europe's oldest lakes, at over 1 million years old, contains over 200 endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. The lake reaches depths of 288 meters and covers 358 square kilometers. Ancient settlements around its shores date back 7,000 years. This glacial lake sits at 501 meters elevation, surrounded by Julian Alps peaks. The island church dates to the 17th century, though a chapel has existed here since the 9th century. The medieval castle, perched on a 130-meter cliff, overlooks the lake.